All right, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, that's pretty weak. Come on. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. We need some energy because this is an exciting time. It's the first time the World Justice Project will have a competition where you get to participate. You will vote. So you say, who is this woman standing up there making us say good afternoon? I am Deborah Enix Ross, and I am an officer of the World Justice Project. And in case you couldn't tell from my accent, I'm from New York. So this really is an exciting time. It's the first time that we've done this. As you know, we had a breakout session. I told the photographer, no pictures with me with my glasses. And he's determined. He's only taking pictures of me and my glasses. But I guess with Photoshop, we can take care of that. So as you will see, you will receive ballots so that you can vote. Well, we're going to hear the ideas for practical programs to advance the rule of law that were proposed at the working sessions on the first day of the forum. There are 10 finalists, so we're very excited about that. Each finalist will have 5 minutes to present their idea. Let me pause there. 5 minutes means 5 minutes. It doesn't mean 6, it doesn't mean 7 and some change, it means 5. And just to make sure, Rada here is sitting here, and she will hold up a sign at 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and 1 minute. And in case that's not clear enough, when she holds up that 1 minute sign, I'm going to stand up and come and stand next to you. And you will know that you have 1 minute to wrap it up. We really want to be fair. We want to give everyone 5 minutes. All right, so are we all clear in the audience? We're clear on that. Everyone gets 5 minutes. At the end of that time, you, the audience, will get a chance to vote. Now, you'll receive a card. It will have the names of all of the 10 presenters. You are to vote for one and only one program. We don't want any hanging chads. We don't want any problems. So just be clear, vote one time and for one program. And then what we will do is tally the votes. And the program that receives the most votes will receive a $10,000 seed grant to implement their program idea. The staff will be collecting the ballots, and after the closing keynote, the winning program will be announced. With that, we will begin. Please give them your undivided attention for 5 minutes each, starting with Altering Social Norms Through Education, the case of bride napping, that will be presented by Ermek Mamayev.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ermek. I'm a lawyer from Kyrgyzstan. That's a small but very beautiful country in Central Asia with a small population of only 6 million people. Well, as you can see, I love my country, and I'm very proud to be a citizen of this country. However, unfortunately, there are certain things in my country that I, as a lawyer, and most importantly, as a human being, am very ashamed of. And one of those things is our tradition, which is known as bride kidnapping. Well, basically, according to that tradition, when a Kyrgyz man wants to get married, he picks up a girl and starts to arrange her kidnapping. He can pick up any girl, any random girl. It can be a schoolgirl coming home from her studies. It can be your sister who is going to supermarket. It can be anyone, your neighbor who is just walking in the park. So basically what happens is that a kidnapper and his friends, they just grab the girl and take her home. And once the girl is in the kidnapper's house, the family get involved and they start doing whatever they can do to persuade the girl to stay against her will. So after hours and hours of struggle, after an hour and hours of cry, the girl usually don't have any other choice but to stay with her kidnapper. As you can understand, it's a forced and unconsensual marriage where the girl has no choice but to stay. If we look at the statistics, and the numbers differ, but if we look at the combined statistics, we can say that at least, and before that I would like you to bear in mind that Kyrgyzstan is a small population country of only 6 billion people. If you look at the statistics, every year at least 12,000 girls are kidnapped. At least 80% of those kidnapped girls end up agreeing to the marriage. And at least 50% of marriages dissolve in the coming 2 or 3 years, and the girls are left with kids in a very difficult financial situation. And what the boys do, they just kidnap another girl and get married. I'm a lawyer. I believe in equality, and most importantly, I believe in gender equality, because that's the way my parents raised me. Unfortunately, most of the population in rural areas were not raised that way. They were not educated that way. And my idea is to fight against this phenomena, against this problem. What I want to do is to have a group of professionals consisting of 6 people, lawyers, to go to the most problematic rural areas, to create a legal clinic, because we lack legal clinics in rural areas. And this legal clinic would not only provide legal services to the victims of bride kidnapping, but would also educate people, educate young girls, young boys, and educate the local community that bride kidnapping is a crime, that it should not be practiced and tolerated anymore in a modern society. We live in the 21st century. The world has changed, and it's time for us to change too. So I have 2 sisters. I do not want such kind of life for them. In fact, I do not want such kind of life for any girl. And I would be very grateful if you would help me to fight against such problem. Of course, it would be a pilot project that would set an example. We have official statistical data. We will go to the most problematic areas. We will educate them. We will provide materials, and then after a year period, we'll just see what was the situation before we stepped in, and what is the situation after that. And if we succeed, and I believe that we will succeed, then other institutions can follow our footsteps and do the same. There's a good novella by George Orwell, Animal Farm, and there's a good saying: all animals are equal, but some animals are equal more than others. It seems like that's the most favorite quote for our Kyrgyz men. I fully disagree with that. It's time to change that, and please help us to change that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. You can go either this way or that way. Thank you, and thank you for staying within the time. Next is creating a childbirth registry, and that's Jabril Osman Ndong and Joel Samuels.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jibril Ousmane Dong from Senegal. We have an idea, will be presented by Mr. Joel.
Hello, everyone. I'm Joel Samuels, the director of the Rule of Law Collaborative at the University of South Carolina, and this project was developed by Jibril, and my assistance is largely in the capacity of translation and refinement in some slight ways, but this project is really a project for CONAF, the organization that he represents, and I want to make that clear as I tell you a little bit about the problem that this project aims to address, focused not necessarily on creating a childbirth registry, but using access to information, the group from which this emanates, to strengthen child registration in Senegal. Child registration is the way that citizens avoid the crisis of invisibility, in fact, of not being part of the state system. And in Senegal, in the rural areas, fewer than 50% of children are registered, and indeed, in some cases, not only are the children themselves not registered at birth and therefore not viewed by the state as known by the state, therefore entitled to rights, but their parents are also themselves not registered and not aware of the rights that come from registration. This project aims to address that problem by using access to information, by using, in particular, mobile technology to provide opportunities for parents and community leaders, village leaders, to register children at birth and also other youth so they're involved directly in the system and able to access the rights to which they're entitled. It also has a certain cross-cutting and holistic approach which also stands to benefit government agents who now will have opportunities to engage with communities in ways that develop their own knowledge and in ways that I'll discuss briefly in a minute can cut down on corruption, which can also be a deterrent in the registration process. One exciting part of this project is that there's a very strong political will within the country to address this problem. The Prime Minister and President have made it clear that this is a priority in their work. And CONAF, which works as an organization to combat illiteracy and focus on basic education primarily for young girls and young women, is an ideally suited partner for this project. One pilot project has already been launched and successfully and has been completed in the rural community of Ngom, where a commune of 42 villages in a pilot test tested this project and found success, but there are opportunities for growth already. But in that community alone, registration rose to over 90% of children and provides, I think, opportunities to see success going forward. This project would be in a similar rural commune, a community of similar size, and would aim to build on the lessons of that project and increase, again, these dire rates. The hope, of course, is to have 100% registration of the children in the state, and certainly the numbers in Ngom will attest to the possibility of reaching that goal. Furthermore, the hope is to reduce corruption, both by introducing the local community to what the standards are and that this is a free registration, that there are no fees involved, which often they're told there might be when they appear, and also by training local officials to interact with communities in different ways. The innovations of this project are three. First, it focuses on reinforcing capacity of all of the actors in the system, community members, but also community leaders, village elders, and state administrative officials who are there and who are involved in the process. So the capacity of all three is developed in part through a pilot committee that would work together in collaboration to develop the program so that there is involvement by all aspects of the local community to be involved from the very beginning in the creation of the program. And finally, you're coming, aren't you? I sense she's coming. And finally, the involvement will be, and collaboration will be cross-cutting. It will involve collaborating with other local groups that CONAF works with the village communities, and as I've said, with the families themselves. I'm thrilled to be able to present this project, and the work that Jabril and his organization do is spectacular, and I hope you'll support this project with seed funding. Thank you.
Perfect. Well done. Yes. I'm like the Grim Reaper when I stand up here. It's okay. The next is the arts as a vehicle to advance the rule of law in prisons and correctional centers, and it will be presented by Esther Omolara Ojia.
The arts as a vehicle to advance the rule of law. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. In ensuring rule of law, the last segment of criminal justice is prison administration. After sentencing, when offenders find themselves in prison, it is the duty for us, prison officers, to ensure the prisoner imbibe discipline, otherwise called corrections, so that upon release, they are useful as good citizens to themselves and a safer world. Most inmates in Africa, in Nigeria, Africa, even across the world, often are not well educated. They lack vocational skills, which somehow contribute to them as offenders. As at March this year, we have over 60,000 inmates in our Nigeria prisons, where I work as the Deputy Controller of Prison. A recent research by Griffith University of Australia shows that performing arts is growing for corrections in prison all over the world. Similarly, like I mentioned in my group presentation, even with pictures, performing arts enable inmates to acquire new skills for self or pay employment upon discharge. It helps them psychologically in anger, stress management, etc. This I also involved in as a professional performing arts graduate working in Nigeria prison and often on secondment as a correctional advisor to United Nations peacekeeping countries. So I intend to develop performing arts academic for Nigeria prison, precisely to cover the 5 prisons we have in Lagos, Nigeria. I intend providing them with complete set of musical instrument equipment, piano, guitars, drum, microphone, and etc. I intend introducing musical concert for and by then, beauty queen competition, creative arts, talent competition, etc. I intend organizing classes for them to learn clothes dyeing, shoes, and bag design, also fine art, painting, and sculpture works. This will help them, upon discharge, to be integrated back to society as a better citizen. The academic will be managed by the Nigeria Prison Officer, the African Law Chamber, voluntary person as instructor under my supervision, as I periodically report to the National Controller General and the World Justice Project. And mind you, if we are being given the instructor that's going to help in training these people, some assistance must be given to them. And I pray that God will help us, that sincerity will be able to do justice and will not disappoint the world justice. Thank you. God bless you.
Esther had some slides, but she chose not. She didn't use them. Okay. The next is obstacles to the rule of law in supply chains from the ground up, strawberry pickers in Greece, and it will be presented by Sumaya Islam.
Here. Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. So this is what American Idol feels like. So here we go. I'm Sumaya Islam. I'm a policy officer at the Open Society Justice Initiative, and it is my privilege to present this project on behalf of Generation 2.0, a young migrant-led organization in Greece. In 2013, 200 migrant workers in Neo-Manolada, Greece, did the most unimaginable thing. They came together to demand their back pay from a rich strawberry farmer they worked for. They had not been paid for nearly 6 months. In response, the farmers sent men with pistols and shotguns to the makeshift tents where the workers lived. Dozens of workers were critically injured. This was a seminal moment in a drama that so often engulfs the underclass of migrant workers in the rich fruit fields of Greece. Low wages, precarious employment practices, poor working and living conditions, wage theft, and violence are common in Manolada and other agricultural districts in Greece. Migrant workers in Greece remain marginalized from government protection and from mainstream labor unions. Few report or document these violations. These Greek strawberries and fruits, I can assure you they're really good, are sold all over Europe, including by retail giants of UK, Germany, and Russia. The growers and grocers are both accountable for fair labor employment practices as per EU and national laws. However, workers, especially migrant workers, experiences and perspectives have largely been ignored or not taken into account when assessing compliance across the fruit supply chain. The proposed project will look at how workers' perspectives can inform the food supply chain holistically and ensure compliance with fair labor practices, including supplier codes of conduct. The Open Society Foundations is supporting Generation 2.0 to develop a community-based paralegal program to work with thousands of migrant workers in Manolada. The paralegals will help workers understand existing laws and assist with wage claims. The proposed World Justice Project grant will support the development and deployment of a mobile application that migrant workers and the paralegals can use to document and track systematically violations in individual farms. The paralegals can help train workers on using the application, and the data from the application can be used by paralegals to target specific farms to organize and offer legal assistance. On the other hand, Generation 2.0 is planning to work with international groups like the Solidarity Center, who have a lot of experience with supply chain analysis and advocacy, to leverage worker-driven data to ensure enforcement of existing standards and laws. This data can act as an alarm system, a deterrent, for retailers and large companies in the food supply chain. Although the project focuses on the strawberry pickers, the app could be used by workers across the agricultural sectors. In closing, Generation 2.0's aim is to build workplace power of migrants in Greece, recognizing that migrant workers lack the social power to win and change the relationship of market forces by themselves. The proposed project brings together the potential of technology, legal empowerment strategies, and cross-border partnerships to elevate migrant voices and advance workers' rights. Thank you.
Well done, right on time. Thank you, Samaya. Next, we will have capacity building for customary courts in the Gambia, and that will be presented by Justice Jallo.
The judiciary of the Gambia would like to have some money to implement a program for building, enhancing the capacity of the 35 customary courts that exist in the country. We believe this would significantly improve the quality of justice being administered in the rural areas of the country. Specifically, it is designed to organize a number of workshops, training workshops, for the 35 presidents of these district tribunals, together with their scribes, and also to develop a manual out of these training workshops, which would be a guide for these presidents. There are 35 such courts in the country, comprising lay people, and they have an extensive jurisdiction. They administer customary law, other than penal law. They administer environmental laws, public sanitation, and public order laws. They deal with the vast majority of cases which arise within the national judicial system. And for most Gambians, they are the first and probably the only contact they ever have with the system of justice in the country. So it's important that the quality of justice there is enhanced. And we plan to do so essentially through training workshops for the presidents and the scribes of these courts, not to train them in the substantive law or the rules of procedure and evidence, but to expose them and increase their awareness of the core principles, the cardinal principles of justice which underlie the system, principles that go to fairness, impartiality, and independence. And then the other component of it would be to train their scribes in record taking and maintenance. Out of the training of the presidents, we would develop a manual which would be a guide for them, for a continuous guide for all those who administer the customary courts on the basic principles, the core principles in the administration of justice. The other component would go to training their scribes to ensure that they can properly and accurately record the judicial proceedings of the customary courts and also maintain the records properly. That is of crucial importance because not only for the legal process, because accurate records are important for the appellate process, but these records embodying the decisions of the customary courts are a very rich national heritage which needs to be accurately kept and maintained. Overall, we believe if we do have funds and we can implement this particular project, it will make a big difference in the quality of justice that is being administered in the rural areas. I thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm so glad you stayed in time. The worst thing I'd want to do is have to come up and tell a justice to sit down. It's a nightmare. All right. Next is Women Front and Center, Legal Education for Greater Access to Socioeconomic Rights, and that will be presented by Monica Tanuhandaru.
Just said thank you for mentioning my name right. First of all, thank you. It's been a humble honor to be here and presenting my topic. I've had this idea. We had this idea when I was heading the anti-corruption unit of UN Office on Drugs and Crime, when a bunch of women in the village, community women at the village level, protested that you're highly paid heading the UN Anti-Corruption Commission, but your work has no impact on us. Corruption happens in the village level. Corruption happens at the regional government level. It's not making our fight in the corruption in the country is not making a difference to these women at the village level. So we put up an idea to see that the subject of seeing the unseen and reach the unreachable. Then our studies went deeper into what is Indonesia and Indonesia and poverty. 70%, Indonesia consists of 70,000 villages and 13,000 islands. Those 70,000 villages, 40% have no electricity. And only 25% have access to mobile telephone. We also looked at half of the Indonesian in the rural areas have no marriage certificate. There goes also for their children. They have no birth certificates. So we read the figure of Indonesia being part of the G20, the Big Five in Asia, or the Big 10 in the world. That is not true. So what I like to share is, all of you knows the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. I was so happy that when this came out, MDGs have spent billions and billions of dollars, but never made any improvements. So what we're trying to do is, the idea is to make an SDGs database at the village level using a mobile application. Some of you would think, oh, what? Villages with no access to electricity and mobile application. Therefore, I think the seed money that we will use is to create a mobile application, creating a database, involving the women to make the data, collect the data, understand the data, analyze the data. So it is involving technology and capacity building and training. But for them to be able to understand what is basic services, what is health rights, what is education rights, what is access to clean water. So once they know and they understand what are these basic rights, they can also demand for change within the village government. Money is not a problem for Indonesia. We have $100,000 to $200,000 given out to each villages. But those money, most of them never reach the people. So we have to create an understanding, education of their rights to be able to demand for basic rights, access to justice, even safety against violence against women and children. What we're trying to do is to start a women understanding technology. We can pilot it in the village, in maybe 3 or 4 villages. The seed money will be used to start up and do a training at the village. Then we will be able to measure the sustainable development goals that at the village level. Hopefully, we can compare the SDGs in Indonesian villages and the SDGs in the villages in Africa. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Thank you, Monica. Next is legal literacy between farming communities and agribusiness ventures seeking to acquire land, and that will be presented by Hector Soliman.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hector Soliman from Philippines, and I'm happy to present my idea, which is called The Banana Story, Why Legal Empowerment Matters for Plantation Farm Workers. Did you ever wonder where the banana that you ate this lunchtime came from and how it was produced? The top exporters of banana globally are mostly Latin American countries like Ecuador, Guatemala, Costa Rica. My country comes in at the 6th place of about 600 million gross value added into the world market for the year 2016. But in my country alone, we have around 212,000 hectares planted to oil, palm, pineapples, bananas, and cacao. These are the main agribusiness fruits that we are planting, and approximately 1.2 million depend on agribusiness. 75% of these lands are lease agreements, and about 25% are growers' contracts based on lands that have been distributed under agrarian reform. But despite the fact that we are contributing $600 million to the world economy on an annual basis, the average income of farmers, according to our statistics authority, remains at $50 per month on a 1.5 hectare farm. And agricultural lands are leased only on an average of US dollars 300 per hectare per year. In a study conducted by the Food and Agriculture Organization and the Department of Agrarian Reform, the iniquitous arrangements are too long, 20 to 30 years, the leases are too low, and there is a unilateral right to renew, among others. We propose a legal empowerment program for farmer organizations in the agribusiness sector. The methodology is partnership with existing legal service NGOs, like the Solidarity for Agrarian Reform and Rural Development, which is going to be eventually the proponent of this proposal if and when we are awarded. Legal empowerment combines a legal literacy and capacity building on how to negotiate, what resources to tap, and utilizing existing networks of NGOs and the government. There are facilitating factors in this initiative. There is a regulatory framework under the government now that tries to improve what are land leases. There are mandatory provisions for capacity building. And there is evidence that other farms are earning $600 per month if the terms and conditions of the leases or contract growing arrangements are improved. There are international standards on better investments. There's the principle for responsible investment and the voluntary guidelines on governance and tenure, which are mostly under the auspices of the Food and Agriculture Organization. In sum, we hope that legal empowerment could lead to better outcomes if we give it a fighting chance. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Next is civil society as a driver of change, technology platform for data collection, and that's Lina Rodriguez.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry for my voice. I think I'm fighting a flu at this moment. The theme that I proposed during the discussion that we had with the other colleagues was civil society as a driver of change, technology platform for data collection. The way that I came out with this idea is that at the moment, I'm a scholarship recipient in Geneva doing a program on transitional justice, and I come from Colombia. In Colombia, I have worked with victims, and what I always hear every time I work with them is the whole idea of recognition and the idea that people who committed the crimes are held liable. And this all comes with the idea of accountability. And I think what I want to explain here is that during the research that I did in Geneva, I discovered that there is an existing technology, apps like Camera V, and specialized institutions that are training students and civil society for the collection of information that may be used for accountability purposes. And this is what I want to implement when I go back in Colombia in September. So the problem is that there is an existing need of accountability, and no longer we must depend on the will of a state to do it. If we see fragile states at the moment, states going through transition like mine, we see that civil society is at the forefront. We see that they are the ones that are dealing with the violations even when the state is not present. And what we also see in a society as mine is that we are using technology a lot. Even in a case of corruption, someone robbed me, people are just taking their phones and they are recording it. So why don't we use that opportunity and that empowerment that civil society is starting to have and do it in the right way? And the right way is to use the existing guidelines and the existing information that has been specialized by agencies. And I quote an organization that is the Public International Law and Policy Group, who developed a guideline in 2016 only focused on civil society, to how to teach them how to collect this information. And when I think about accountability, I also must explain to you that I don't think only on trials. Accountability can also be done through truth commissions. And the big problems in fragile states at the moment is that there is not an existing discourse of what happened. And this could help, because if civil society every time is like discriminated, or sometimes people don't take it seriously because they come and they say the same things all the time, like victims groups, this could empower them. And this could also breach the idea of the state and civil society. So what I'm thinking is creating a platform where we can inform civil society on what can they do and the technology they can use on their phones, which is free, to collect this information in a proper manner. The second point that I want to do is the multidisciplinarity approach that it's going to have, because transitional justice is multidisciplinary. So we could gather students, academia, and even members of government to interact with this platform. So the platform will work in a way that it collects the information and it could transmit it to state authorities, even if they don't have access to these places. And this is what is happening in Colombia in certain places, where social leaders, which are the ones who are like speaking out about the problems, are being targeted. So why maybe this could have a deterrent effect at the long term. So I'm running out of time. This is what I wanted to share with you, and I think the most important is that collecting information could avoid re-victimization and also do not harm. The use of technology brings also risk, but I think it's a new era, and we must take advantage of that for accountability and to establish the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Number 9, We for We, a multimedia platform on gender, health, and the rule of law. Namata Majix Walker.
Right. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like you to join me in this presentation. When I say healthy women and girls, I would like you to say lead to a healthy nation. Healthy women and girls leads to a healthy nation. Thank you very much. Now, We for We is disturbed. Our group is disturbed that a multitude of issues affect women and girls and their health. And these include lack of access to safe health services, reproductive health care, nutrition, sanitation, and safe abortion. Protection against violence, domestic violence, female genital mutilation or female genital cutting, and HIV and AIDS. Some people also worry about the fact that there is no safe abortion or abortion rights. Now, what is the solution? We are very worried because we know how important it is, how our women are important in the home, because they are the ones who take care of the home. They take care of the girls and they take care of the family. So it is very important that we empower women through information sharing. Our group decided that it is important that we empower women through information sharing. After all, why reinvent the wheel? If something has succeeded in one country, why don't we use the information in another country? So our plan is to create an online platform called We for We platform, or should it be We for Us? We for We platform, a multimedia platform on gender, health, and the rule of law. This platform is meant to capture the narratives or success stories, success and failure stories of all relevant stakeholders working to improve on the health of women and girls, as well as ensure that they have good access to basic health services. These stakeholders include women, health professionals, men, policymakers, aid workers, donors, for example. We recognize that everyone in society has a stake in this process. This is why we are talking about we for we. This time it's not he for she. It's we for we, because everyone has a stake. A healthy woman or healthy women and girls lead to a healthy nation. Specifically, the narratives will focus on the strategies that have been used by various groups, in particular women, to effect change in their societies and to determine which strategies were most effective and which ones were not. What were the major lessons learned? We will benefit from the major lessons learned rather than reinventing the wheel all the time. This information will be captured using various media, including written documentation, podcasts, videos, etc., etc. All modern social media. What the platform is meant to achieve. This platform, the ultimate objective is to connect women and other groups advocating for better health conditions and services for women and girls across various countries and regions of the world so that they can learn from one another and share stories of both successes and failures. I repeat, why reinvent the wheel? Hopefully this would lead to better advocacy efforts that result in better laws and services that ultimately benefit the health of women and girls. As this project is being proposed by the 50-50 group of Sierra Leone is a post-Ebola nation with the highest maternal mortality rate in the world. Google it, you will find out that it is true. The pilot can be launched in Sierra Leone because we have had experience of our health challenge recently. If, for example, something like this has existed, we would have been able to share information with Liberia, which was also affected by Ebola. Part 2 of the project would then expand to other countries in the West African region. Upon the success of the initial 2 phases of the project, focal points could be designated in other regions of the world who would be responsible for collecting narratives from their respective regions. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. So I want you to help me again by saying, healthy women and girls lead to a healthy nation. This is why it is important that you support this, because the woman is very important in the home for ensuring that we are all healthy. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, last but not least, number 10. Scaling rule of law awareness, education into primary schools. And that will be presented by Nicola Satchel.
One love from Jamaica. So first, who are we? My name is Nicola Satchel, and I'm representing the Department of Government. There I'm a lecturer in political sociology and criminal justice. We have been doing significant work with the government of Jamaica on youth development issues, and we recognize that there are significant gaps in how we're engaging the youth on issues around governance, including the rule of law. So Jamaica, we've been doing a little better in terms of the rule of law index. We went up 3 ranks this year, and we've been doing better on the Transparency International Index. This is because we have introduced new legislation, and we have an austerity measure with the IMF that is forcing more accountability. But how do we engrave what is happening in the culture? We have to engage our youth. We have in the Caribbean 63% youth population. And one of the studies that we did showed that 48% of our young people want to leave Jamaica. How do we get them to stay? How do we get them to see that there is actually a structure that exists that will actually better their way of life? So the Department of Government started what we call the Governance Society, and really their mission is to educate young people about issues of governance, policies, and of course, transparency, accountability, and the rule of law. How can you help us? What do we want to do? So what we want to do, we have gone into high schools and we have started the process of educating young people about this importance of the rule of law and good governance. And now we want to go into the primary schools. A study that we did showed that 12% of our young people were aware of the programs that are around the anti-corruption and building integrity, and 8% have participated in such programs. So we want to educate our population about what is happening. So we have done high school tours, and they have been successful. We have done forums where we have engaged the government on youth issues. Now we want to go in the primary schools to scale up our efforts. So what we need is resource material to actually leave with the schools. So here I learned about what they're doing in Hong Kong and the material that they have and how they've been using storytelling. I think this would be a good way to actually engage those students and to capture something from the World Justice Forum that could work in Jamaica. Increase the number of high school tours and also those in primary schools, and have it on a national level. So though most of our population is urban, we still need to reach the rural areas so that they know that these mechanisms exist and that they can actually use these mechanisms. We also, of course, our students are political scientists. We want to engage the law students to actually help us in this particular drive so that we can have more students, more tours, more material, and more one love in Jamaica.
Strong finish. All right, so first, please join me in thanking all 10 of our presenters for their terrific ideas. Now is your chance. Has everyone received a ballot? If you have, please take the time now to mark your ballots. As you know, $10,000 is at stake. The program that receives the most votes will receive a $10,000 seed grant. And the staff will come around and collect those ballots, and they will be counted, and the results announced after our keynote speaker. So I'll give you a moment to do that. I feel like I'm in church. The ushers will collect your ballots. You raise your hands, and they'll collect them all for you. You're so good. You really are.